Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Text 1. Sutta vacha atatam sukhamasina upasinam prihachavaha dervashi prahaviprashim vina pani smayandiva.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1, translation. Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi amongst the brahmanas, Vedvyas.
Text 2. Narada vacha parasarya mahabhaga bhavata kachidatmana parittushyati sharira atma manasa evava.
Text 2, translation. Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parashara, Narada inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?
Text 3. Jignasitam susampannam apite mahatadbhutam kritavan bharatam yastvam sarvata paribrimhitam.
Text 3, translation. Your inquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained.
Text 4. Jignasitam aditam cha brahma yattat sanatanam tatapi sochasya atmanam akritartha iva prabho.
Text 4, translation. You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu?
Text 5. Vyasavacha astyeva me sarvamidam vyatoktam tatapi natma paritushyate me tanmulam avyaktam agatapotam pritchamahe tvatma bhavatma bhutam.
Text 5, translation. Sri Vyasadeva said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one Brahma, who is self-born, without mundane father and mother.
Text 6. Save bhavan veda samasta guhyam upasito yat purusha puranaha parashvaresho manaseva vishvam shri chatyavatyati kunera asangaha.
Text 6, translation. My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature.
Text 7. Prampraryatan bhargaivo trilokim antascharo vayurivatma sakshi paravare brahmani dharmato pratehi snatasya menu namalam vichakshva.
Text 7, translation. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows.
Text 8. Shri Narada Vacha Bhavatanudita prayam yasho bhagavato malam yanevaso natushyeta manyeta darshanam kilam.
Text 8, translation. Sri Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless."
Text 9. Yatha dharmadaya charta muni varyan kirittitaha natatha vasudevasya mahima yanuvarnitaha.
Text 9, translation. Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality Vasudeva.
Text 10. Na yadvachaschitra harer yasho jagat pavitram pragranita karhichit tadvayasam tirtamushanti manasa na yatrahamsa niramanti shikshayaha.
Text 10, translation. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there.
Text 11. Tatvak visargo janalanga viplavo yasmin pratishlokamabhatya vidyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitani shrivanti gayanti grinanti sattvaha.
Text 11, translation. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest.
Text 12. Naishkarmyamapya chutyapavavarjitam na shobhate gnanamalam niranjanam kutah punah shashvatapatramishvare na charpitam karma yatapi akaranam.
Text 12, translation. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord?
Text 13. Ato mahabhagapavana mokadruk suchi shrava satyarato dritavrataha urukramasya kilabandha muktaye samadhina nusmaravat vichestitam.
Text 13, translation. O Vyasadev, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage.
Text 14. Tato nyatha kinchanayat vivakshataha prithak dishastat kritarupanamabihi na karhi chitkvapi chadustitam lape tavata hatanorivaspadam.
Text 14, translation. Whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind, as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place.
Text 15. Jugupsitam tamakrite nushasataha svabhavaraktasya mahan vyatikramaha Yad vakyato dharma iti tarastito na manyate tasya nivaranam janaha.
Text 15, translation. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions.
Text 16. Vichakshanosya arhati veditam vipor ananta paryasya nivritita sukham pravartamanasya guner anatmanas tato bhavantarshaya chestitam vipo.
Text 16, translation. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality retired from the activities of material happiness deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown the ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord.
Text 17. Tyaktva satarvam charanam bhujam hare vajanna pakvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kvava patram abhudam musyakim kovartha hapto vajatam satarmataha.
Text 17, translation. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything.
Text 18. Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovido na lapyate yad pramatam uparyataha talapyate tu kavadan yata sukham kalena sarvatra kapira ramhasa.
Text 18, translation. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful and which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet, Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them.
Text 19. Nave jano jatu katan jana vrajan mukunda sevya yavadanga samsritim smaran mukundang kripa guhanam punur vihatumichan narasagraho janaha.
Text 19, translation. My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
Text 20. Idam hi vishvam bhagavani vetaro yato jagatstana nirodha sambhavaha tatti swayam veda bhavam statapite pradesha matram bhavatam pradarshitam.
Sorry, Hare Krishna, can you move the text, please? Thank you. Text 20, translation. The Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is himself this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you. Jai Shri Mataji, very nicely recited. Thank you, Veena Mataji, for your very clear English translations.
Hare Krishna. Sorry for the mistakes in the long words.
I didn't notice much. Okay, dear devotees, welcome. A special welcome, I think, to Rasalila Mataji. You're joining us for the first time. Warm welcome to our chat group. So today we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. And we are now reading chapter number 5, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. So we shall recite the Mangala Charanam prayers before we read the verse and discuss it. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadi Shatarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So yesterday we see for the first time Srila Sri Narad Muni responding to Srila Vyasadev's despondency as been described in the previous chapter. And yesterday we discussed how Sri Narada's first response was non-verbal. It was to smile at Vyasadeva, and we discussed the meaning of that smile. So today we move on to text number 2. Narada Uvacha Parasarya Mahabhaga Bhavata Kaschid Atmana Paritusyati Sharira Atma Manasa Evacha. Word for word synonyms. Narada Uvacha said, Parasarya, O son of Parasara, Mahabhaga, the greatly fortunate, Bhavataha, your Kachit, if it is, Atmana, by the self-realization of Paritusyati, does it satisfy Sharira, identifying the body, Atma, self, Manasa, identifying the mind, Eva, certainly, Va, and translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parasara, Narada inquired, "Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?" Purport. This was a hint by Narada to Vyasadeva regarding the cause of his despondency. Vyasadeva, as the descendant of Parasara, a greatly powerful sage, had the privilege of having a great parentage, which should not have given Vyasadeva cause for despondency. Being a great son of a great father, he should not have identified the self with the body or the mind. Ordinary men with a poor fund of knowledge can identify the body as self or the mind as self, but Vyasadeva should not have done so. One cannot be cheerful by nature unless one is factually situated in self-realization, which is transcendental to the material body and mind. So here we see Sri Narad speaking for the first time. And his first words are an inquiry. And he's asking Vyasadeva a question. Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or mind as objects of self-realization? Now, this is quite an interesting question. And Prabhupada says this question immediately gives an hint to Narada's diagnosing of Vyasadeva's despondency. The first thing we take of particular note of this is how immediately Narada is able to diagnose the cause of his Vyasadeva despondency. And this is the meaning of guru or spiritual master. The spiritual master, the expert spiritual master, can immediately diagnose our spiritual disease and give us the appropriate cure. You know, everyone, like when you go to a hospital, different people come to the hospital with different diseases. Some people have a heart condition, some people have skin diseases, some people have mental illness, so much. An expert doctor can vary the patient and prescribe the right remedy. So in the same way, in spiritual life, one who is serious about spiritual life, we all come with our own misconceptions of what it means to be spiritual. And an expert spiritual master, when we come meet an expert spiritual master, immediately can diagnose. We can see this in many. When we read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Prabhupada describes his first meeting with his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, immediately, before even Srila Prabhupada could sit down, he said, "You are a learned man. Why don't you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya?" And Srila Prabhupada's objection was, well, first we should get independence. Because while we are under subjugation of the British, we cannot act properly. So first let us secure independence, and then we can talk about your preaching. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur immediately said, this self-realization is so independent, so important, so exclusively important, that this should be taken up immediately without any delay. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he saw immediately young Abai. He was a nationalist. He was thinking that first we should liberate India from a subjugation, and then we can do other things. And that was a bodily concept of life. When one thinks, I belong to a certain country, a certain nation, that is the bodily condition. And then one can, one can never succeed in spiritual life. But the expert spiritual master, one meaning of guru means heavy. The guru, he can crush all our misconceptions in spiritual life. Therefore, it is said, one who is serious about spiritual life has to surrender unto a bona fide spiritual master. My Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Giriraj Swami, tells a very nice story of how he met Srila Prabhupada. He was searching for a guru, and he was meeting so many different spiritual teachers. And he was asking them questions. He met a Zen master, he met a yogi, and none of them could really answer his questions. And one day, eventually, Srila Prabhupada came to Boston, Brandeis University, and Giriraj, who was Glenn Teton at that time, met the devotees, and then he was invited to come and meet Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada gave a lecture at the Sunday feast, and after the lecture, Prabhupada asked any questions. So young Glenn asked Srila Prabhupada that what is the goal of life? Well, I'm trying to remember exactly what was the question. Sundari, if you are online, you can remind me. Anyway, he asked Srila Prabhupada one very pertinent question. And then Srila Prabhupada responded. And Prabhupada said, before I ask you, can you tell me what is your goal? Do you want to serve God, or do you want to become God? And when he asked my Guru Maharaj that question at that point in time, immediately my Guru Maharaj thought about his wall. And in his wall, he had written in big ornate letters, you are God. Because at that point in time, most people, they only had the Brahman conception of life, and that we are God. And the moment Srila Prabhupada asked that question, he knew he couldn't lie. And he said to Srila Prabhupada, yes, I realized that I wanted to become God. But now I understand that the purpose of life is not to become God, but to serve God. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, that is correct. And immediately he offered his full dandavats to Srila Prabhupada. And he said, there and then he knew he had met his real spiritual master. He's met his real spiritual master. So this is the nature of a spiritual master. Immediately, just like an expert gardener, he can tell you exactly what a flower in the garden is simply by smelling it. An expert spiritual master can immediately know what diagnosis to give us spiritually by meeting us. And you can see that so so well in Sri Narada's diagnosis of Srila Vyasadev's despondency. The next important point Srila Prabhupada makes here in the purport is that Vyasadeva should not have found himself in this position. Why? Because he was the son of Parasara Muni, a great sage, a very elevated spiritual personality. And being the son of a great father, naturally he would have been taught from birth the proper understanding of spiritual life and the ABC of spiritual life. We are not the body, we are not the mind, but we are the spirit soul. We have nothing to do with the body and we have nothing to do with the mind. This is the sign of knowledge. If one has knowledge, immediately one knows the simple fact. And Vyasadeva, he should not have been identifying with the body and mind. And what was the evidence? The evidence tells that in all of his writings, Srila Vyasadeva was not instructing people in the complete way of how to come off the bodily and mental platform. He couldn't. And Prabhupada further says, what is the sign of that Srila Vyasadeva was not in knowledge at this particular point in time? We can understand that, sometimes leelas happen in a certain way. Prabhupada says one very clear way was that one is not cheerful. Anyone who is following a genuine spiritual path, anyone who is following the sadhana properly, one clear measure of one's good practice is that one will always be feeling joyful. One will not become despondent, because despondency is a condition of the mind. So if we are not always feeling cheerful, we are not feeling happy, sometimes we are prone to become morose, depressed, and despondent. It means there's something wrong. There's something wrong in our spiritual understanding. And that's a very good measure. And if at any point in time we ever find ourselves in such a situation, the automatic thing should be to become more serious in our spiritual life. Once Srila Prabhupada told one devotee, if ever you are feeling a lack of enthusiasm, if ever you're feeling despondent, immediately pick up your bead bag and chant Hare Krishna. And then immediately we'll feel joyful, because Prabhupada says that, let me show you, I think I made some slides. Let me stop here. There was some extracts. Oh, no, that's not the right one. Sorry. Okay. So let me share this. That's not the slide. Yeah, Prabhupada in one lecture in Hawaii in March 21, 1969. Prabhupada says, Krishna is joyful. I am part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, I must also be joyful. That is natural. If my father is black, then I am also black. So our Father, the Supreme Father, Krishna, is joyful. He's not engaged in some industrial work or heavy machine making. He's simply playing on his flute and Radharani is there. That is joyful nature. So the point being made is that if we are genuinely in contact with Krishna, and when one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra properly, then we are in contact with Krishna. Then immediately we should be feeling joyful. We shall be feeling joyful. The other important point of this verse I just wanted to touch on is the cause of despondency. Srila Prabhupada, in the teachings of Queen Kunti, he writes very beautifully. This is the materialistic propensity. One thinks, I shall be happy. My sons will be happy. My community will be happy. My nation will be happy. This is extended selfishness. No one is thinking of Krishna and how Krishna will be happy. Rather, everyone is thinking in terms of his own happiness. How shall I be happy? How will my children, my community, my society, and my nation be happy? Everywhere we shall find this. Everyone is struggling for existence, not thinking of how Krishna will be happy. Krishna consciousness is very sublime. We should try to understand it from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and try to engage our senses for the service of the master of the senses, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Then we shall actually be happy. So this is one of the reasons Srila Vyasadeva was despondent. He was thinking how people will become happy. They will become happy by giving up the fruits of their activities, karma kanda, by jnana kanda, by upasana kanda, by yoga. He was prescribing so many ways by which people could become happy. But he never told them, you should think about how you can make Krishna happy. Because only when Krishna is happy, then we will become happy. This was his big mistake, and therefore he himself was not happy. Because Vyasadeva, in his previous literature, he was not thinking how to make Krishna happy. And this is the crux of spiritual life. Any other path, there is some animosity that still exists towards Krishna. There is not this genuine feeling of how to make Krishna happy. And therefore it is never satisfying. Yayatma suprasidati. That the soul will never ever feel satisfied. It's only when Krishna is satisfied will we become satisfied. And therefore Srila Prabhupada, he was very, very strong in his preaching. And you'll see sometimes Srila Prabhupada would meet people. He would be very outspoken with Christian ministers and other spiritual leaders, and even those who are in the Vedic path. And Prabhupada said, there was one pastime where Guru Maharaj talks about, he was wondering whether he was compromising in his preaching or not. And he had some doubts. And when he had his doubts, miraculously, he got a letter from Srila Prabhupada. And when he got the letter and he opened it, he said the words jumped out of the page. And there Srila Prabhupada had written, the fact is that I am the only one in India is openly criticizing not only impersonalism and demigod worship, but everything that falls short of complete surrender to Krishna. My Guru Maharaj never compromised in his preaching, nor will I, nor should any of my students. We are firmly convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that all others are his part and parcel servants. This we must declare boldly to the whole world, that they should not foolishly dream of world peace unless they are prepared to surrender fully to Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So you see, there's many spiritual teachers. As you like, you do. As you like, you do. All rivers lead to the same ocean. And if one is practicing impersonalism, oh, that's okay. If one is worshipping the demigods, that is okay. But Srila Prabhupada, following in the line of his spiritual master, anything that fell short of pure devotional service, anything that had a slight tinge of being mixed with some contaminating process, Srila Prabhupada would speak out against it. Not only would Prabhupada speak against it, he would speak against any teacher that gave anything less than pure Krishna consciousness. Because Srila Prabhupada was convinced it was only Krishna consciousness, it is only Krishna consciousness that can satisfy the soul. Only Krishna consciousness can satisfy the soul. So this is the nature of real guru. The real guru will give us the real process, not that something short. And anything that's short, that anything is even slightly deviating from the process, the spiritual master, the genuine spiritual master will cut across that. And here we see Sri Narada, he's doing that. Immediately he's asking Vyasadeva the question that, are you satisfied? Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? What he's meaning is, are you satisfied that you're giving some process that still keeps one linked to the body and mind? Immediately he's diagnosing this. So, we can see how expert a spiritual master Sri Narada is, and how he's immediately getting to the root cause. You're not lingering on the periphery, immediately getting to the root cause. And that is anything short of pure devotional service cannot satisfy the soul. So I'll stop here. Maybe we'll take any questions, comments, or reflections that anyone may have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Sri Krishna Mataji.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. May I mention today is Rasalila Srimati Mataji's birthday, her appearance day. Can you wish Mataji a very happy Krishna conscious appearance day, please?
Oh, certainly. I think I misunderstood your message. So, Rasalila Srimati Mataji, on behalf of all the chat members, we'd like to wish you a very happy birthday, appearance day. May you always be blessed in your Krishna consciousness, and thank you for being such a dedicated member of our chat group.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the good wishes and blessings. And thank you so much for all the good wishes and blessings and all the devotees. And it really means a lot to me. And special thank you to dear Shri Kishori Mataji and all the facilitators and Jyoti Mataji and Sakshi Mataji and all the dear devotees for all your support and guidance. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Pranams.
We all like to unmute and all of us can say Hari Bol to Mataji if Prabhuji doesn't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Please unmute and let's all say Hari Bol to
Wonderful
service.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So are there any questions or comments or reflections on today's session?
Yes, Prabhuji, can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, sure.
It's related to actually, I think, two of the texts, text 17 and text 19, where it says, one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Is that really talking about discipline, or is that talking about like, you know, how strictly we're able to follow you know, the devotional kind of, you know, things that we're supposed to, and it's because of the material things that appear as challenges in our life?
I think it refers to both. Both is our shortcomings, and also actually, you know, falling down, meaning maybe temporarily engaging in sense gratification again. So such a person is greater than one who is able to do his duties perfectly. One can see this in different contexts. One who is maybe failing in their duty, making mistakes in their duty, falling short of their duty. One falling short of in their spiritual practices. One falling short in their determination. It can be, fall down can come in many different guises. But the point being here, that one who is engaged in the devotional service to Lord Krishna, even if such person has some temporary fall down, they will always be considered more advanced and greater than a person who executes the duties of one ashram perfectly, but fails to worship Lord Krishna.
Yeah. So the second part of that question then, how do you keep up how do you not fall down? Or how do you get up again?
Well, in the process of Krishna consciousness, if we do fall down, that means, you know, somehow the other just missing out in our spiritual practices. There is no, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no need for any form of atonement. One has to simply just pick up one's spiritual practice, one's devotional practices, and carry on. So we all may encounter some setbacks, some temporary small fall downs, or we can have big fall downs.
Yeah.
We should always have faith that the process of Krishna consciousness is such a powerful and potent process. If we simply take it up again, that fall down is not considered significant at all. Yeah, we just have to keep on the path. And Prabhupada was very clear about that. In certain, simply chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. Try to read for at least 1 hour. Take the association of devotees, and then we'll be well situated, no doubt.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, Emma Mataji has written a nice advice. If we stay in association of devotees and Hari Nam, it protects us from falling down. Yes, Emma Mataji, thank you. Pushpa Mataji, you raised your hand. Or was it a mistake?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think it was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Krishangi Mataji, you were unmuted for a while. Did you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry. Yeah. No, I don't.
Okay. Vishalni Mataji, you wanted to add something?
Yes, Prabhu. Just wanted to know, Vyasdev is incarnation of the Lord. And is he acting in this context? Is an Avish Shakti avatar, or is he, I mean, I don't understand, because we say he's incarnation of the Lord. So in this context, in Srimad Bhagavatam and Narad Muni advising him about doing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So how do we look into that? Is he having a Shaktivesh avatar?
Yeah, he's a Shakti Advesh avatar, meaning he's not the full incarnation, he's empowered incarnation. That's what Bhagavatam says. Consideration. And secondly, we see this as Leela, as the Lord's arrangements to have Srimad Bhagavatam given to us. There's one purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about Maharaj Parikshit, and he's describing how Maharaj Parikshit took a dead snake in anger of is it Shringi? I forget. What's the father?
Forgotten the name.
Yeah. Anyway, the great sage. He put this snake around his head, and Prabhupada says, this was very uncharacteristic of Maharaj Parikshit. He was a very cultured, highly elevated soul, and he took a dead snake and put it around, the head of Shringi. So how can you explain that? And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, the only way we can explain it is that this event was orchestrated by Lord Krishna, so Srimad Bhagavatam could be spoken. So we could also see this whole pastime of Srila Vyasadev's despondency. He's the literary incarnation of the Lord. That this was some arrangement of the Lord. But at the same time, we cannot deny the fact that Vyasadeva prior to this point had genuinely not given, the pure knowledge of devotional service. So we can look at it from different angles.
Yes, Prabhu.
But we should not think less of Srila Vyasadeva because of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments or reflections? All right. Thank you, dear devotees, for your participation and your attendance. All glories to your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Panchakalpa Tiruviyascha, Kripasya Patitanam Anantakari Vaishnava Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, thank you.
Wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.